Hello and welcome to today's video, which is going to be a new Pan That Palette introduction. I am so excited to start some new projects this year. I have been project panning for over 5 years and I've been documenting this on YouTube for the last 3 years. So if you want to catch up, watch my older project pans and Pan That palettes, I will link those playlists down below. I have a Pan That palette and a project pan playlist for the last 3 years. I'm very excited though to start some new project pans in the next few weeks and to start a new Pan That palette. Now, the last 3 years that I did Pan That palette, I focused on one palette for the entire year. This year in particular, the last couple of months, I was definitely losing interest in the palette and I was trying to completely finish a palette this year. I did not do that. I did pretty well and I finished quite a few eyeshadows, so you can watch those videos to catch up if you would like. However, this year I am going to start with one palette, but I'm going to give myself the option of switching to another palette if I choose to do that at some point, if I feel like I'm getting burned out on it. Something else that I've decided for the year is I am not going to be putting eyeshadows in other project pans to try to hit pan on them. In years past, I would do a Pan That palette, but then sometimes in other projects, I would pick other palettes to try to hit pan on those as well. And I just realized that that is too much. So I'm gonna do Pan That palette, and then the only other eyeshadow palette projects will be ones that are more counting usage, like using my eyeshadow palettes Project Pan, Project 10 uses, and Project 100 uses. So check out my last year's Project Pan playlist if you have not seen all of those videos. But yeah, I'm very excited, so let's get into this intro. Alrighty, the palette I have decided to try to pan is the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. Now, I'm not going to try to finish this, of course. As I mentioned, I don't want to burn myself out. I do have several pans already in this palette, as you can see. It is one of my older eyeshadow palettes, which is why I have picked it. I also really do love this palette quite a bit. So I'm not sure what the goals are going to be. Maybe hit a few pans and then move on to another palette, but I'll see how I'm feeling. If I want to continue to work on this, then I will do that. But if I start to get sick of it, then I will potentially switch to another palette. So I already have 4 pans. And if you were watching my roulette pan collab, I was trying to hit pan on this eyeshadow Dusty Rose in that project. I obviously have not hit pan, but I do have a major dip going in that one. So that seems like potentially the first one that I could maybe hit pan on. The rest that I don't already have pan on, honestly, there's not really many major dips, sadly. So we shall see. Some of my other favorite colors in this palette that I've not used as much are these 3 browns here, and also this burgundy is beautiful as well. All right, so this is what Soft Glam looks like at the intro. I'm gonna try to use this for a while and see if I can hit a few pans. We'll see. Again, I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. I will say that is something I'm really trying not to do this year as far as project panning, is not to put too much pressure on myself, because project panning for me is supposed to be fun. I want to get use out of my makeup collection, but I don't want to feel overwhelmed and I don't want it to feel like a chore. So if I get sick of this palette, I can switch to something else. Let me just show you some of the other palettes that I'm considering maybe trying to pan later on. Again, I'm not committed. Well, I'm committed to the Soft Glam, but not the rest of these. One is by Juvia's Place. It is one of my favorite eyeshadow brands, and I realized I don't have pan on any of my Juvia's Place palettes. Even though they're one of my favorite formulas, for some reason I don't use them that much, which is really unfortunate. This is the Original Warrior palette, and it probably is my most used by Juvia's. So, you know, maybe at some point I will put this in the Pan That palette rotation. You know, these 2 matte shades I've used a lot. This one I've used some. This one I've used in my eyebrows too, so that would be an option. So yes, you may see this at some point. The other 3 I have considered do have pan in them already. The first one is the Lorac Pro Palette. I have pan on this shade here. I also have a pretty big dip going on that color there, light pink. And as we know, Lorac and Anastasia are some of the easier formulas to pan because the pans are shallow and they're powdery formulas. So they're much faster to hit pan on compared to more tightly pressed eyeshadows. My Pan That palette in 2018 was the Tartlet in Bloom, and 2019 was the Too Faced Chocolate Bar, and I used up a lot of the palettes and hit pan on a lot of eyeshadows. I obviously did not finish them, but those formulas are so tightly pressed. They took a lot longer to hit pan on than some of these palettes that I'm showing you here. Lorac is definitely one that tends to be more powdery, so it is easier to hit pan. The other two I'm considering are also Anastasia Palettes, the Norvina palette. I've talked about this one a lot. This may be my favorite. I have several pans on this one as well. Therefore, I think it would be a good option. And I really want to get use out of my Anastasia palettes. They're getting a little bit older, not super old, but I have heard that their formula maybe goes bad a little bit faster. At least that was true with the Modern Renaissance, but I'm not so sure about their newer palettes. But I definitely don't want to, have this go bad before, I use more of it up. And the last potential for this project is the Sultry palette. Same story here. Anastasia, really like this palette, easier to hit pan. I have several pans as well. And another reason that this one I particularly think I would like to get more use out of is because I've recently purchased the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Now, from my experience having both of those palettes, they're definitely not identical, but there are some similarities. Also, I have the Milani Soft and Sultry, which is also a cool tone palette. Similar to this, again, it's not exact, but I feel like I can do some pretty similar looks among those three palettes. Therefore, I really don't think I need all three of them. This is older than the other two. I already have pan on several shades. So this is one that I really think that I would love to use because yeah, I have those other two palettes and there's definitely some repetition among them. That is it for my new Pan That palette introduction. I'm very excited. Please let us know, are you doing Pan That palette? I know a lot of people do pan those eyeshadows. I know that is an extremely popular project. So let us know what you're doing as far as panning eyeshadows, but I'm very, very happy not to try to pan any eyeshadows other than what I'm going to be currently using for Pan That palette. And I only want to work on one of these palettes at a time, at least for now. Maybe later on I'll choose to work on multiple palettes simultaneously, but again, I don't want to get overwhelmed. And I'm also going to be introducing a new form of shopping my stash this year. I'm going to change my shop my stash up a little bit as well, which I'm very, very excited. I want to try something different. I don't want to put as much pressure on myself. I'm so happy that the only shadows I want to be trying to hit pan on will be what I'm doing for Pan That palette. And then everything else, I'm going to continue to do my usage style projects for my eyeshadow palette. So let us know what you're going to be doing for Project Pans and Pan That palette this year. If you want to catch up on my older Project Pan and Pan That palette videos, I'll link those playlists. I'm going to start new playlists for this year, one for Project Pan and one for Pan That palette. That is it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.